Hey, everybody, and welcome to The Bottom Line. I'm your host, Lauren Khalil. We have an exciting show today after the recent news of the equipment list for the 2022 Open. We are now discussing our predictions for potential repeats for open workouts. On the show today, we have Bill Grundler, we have Chase Ingraham, and Tommy Marquez, all of our favorite sports analysts. Also from the show Get With the Programming and Talking Elite Fitness. Guys, it's great to have you on. This is going to be a fun chat.
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel like there's nothing more fun than speculating about open workouts. It's probably my favorite part of the Open.
In what other sport do you speculate about your eventual demise? You know,
What can be the coolest way to die? That's kind of what we're doing here. What's the funnest way to hurt as bad as you can?
I'm curious, based on everybody's picks, if it's workouts that you enjoy or that you remember you hated so much and you just want to feel that pain again.
I feel like my hate picks are pretty self-explanatory, knowing my history of certain movements, in particular a single one. So anything deadlift related. So I'm like the antithesis of Tommy. It's like anything Tommy likes, I don't. And anything I like, Tommy probably doesn't either.
Well, I mean that's a sneaky way of him saying he's way more fit than I am, because there's a lot of things that I don't like, and there's only like two things I do like. So. but we get it, Chase. You're fit. All right.
So first, what we need to go over is what is the list. If you haven't seen it yet, the equipment list includes one dumbbell, a barbell, plates, a box, wall space, a pull-up bar, and a rope. So very accessible. Even, most people that work out in home gyms should be able to, join in on all of the fun with the open workouts this year. So Bill, we're going to start with you. What is your pick for a possible repeat this Open?
I have two that I think could be done. One is a very it's a simple version, and I'm surprised we haven't done it yet, honestly. But the deadlift box jump, the increasing deadlift box jump one. It is at least the way we did it originally, you could step up if you wanted to. So it makes it extremely accessible. The weights increase, so it allows everyone to play at one level, and then you kind of get held, stuck in the mud, depending on where your issues might be. Easy to do, extremely accessible, doesn't take any high skill. So I could very easily see that one being done again. Whether they make it step ups or jump ups or not, I'm not really sure. But that would be my go-to as far as repeat if they were going to do one. Like right off the page, that would be the first one I'd pick.
Did you enjoy doing that one? I know. Yeah, I was going to say Tommy loves that one.
I will say that I remember the first time we did that one, and I think I did that one 3 times. And I'm usually a one and done kind of guy. We were at a bachelor party in Vegas, so we did it up at
I remember this story.
we did it in Vegas the first time, and that was like the wrong time to ever try to do an open score. So then we all come back on the plane. We did it again here, and then realized maybe if I just stepped up, it would be a lot better, which it was. And
wait, so was that after a night of going out for the bachelor party?
It was squeezed in the middle somewhere. We were at Max Forrest's place when it was still big. So we went there and did that. It was a mistake to even try to do that, even think it would be all right to do it, but tried it anyway.
Well, this is coming off an open too from New Orleans.
Yeah. And so there was a lot of flying, and again, like a lot of flying, a lot of traveling. And I am not, and I will say my classic line is first round's the warm up. So I mean, you just kind of jump into it. And I will say this: the nice thing about this particular event is, even if you do the first round as the warm up deal, like you get a good number of reps at lighter weight, so you can kind of jump into it like that. It's really one of those ones where you have to kind of gauge yourself and prep yourself for the later rounds to see how far you want to get into those heavier reps. Now, granted, how it's written about. Are you supposed to be the only one that changes your weights, or are you allowed to have someone else that changes the weights, or can you have multiple bar? I think all those things would have to be kind of fleshed out. But I really like what it is. I think, I mean, if we really honestly do a repeat, which I think that is going to be a big question in itself if that really happens, but I could see this one being a simple one to drop in the hat. Yeah.
Tommy, what's
I
your
feel like
first
that's
pick?
a good pick.
I would love for that one. That's like one of my favorite open workouts of all time.
Of course.
Because I actually stole some of Bill's adamantium Wolverine exoskeleton and made my own weight belt out of it. So I've been using that for about 10 years. But I actually, it's funny because I have two repeats, one that's a stat buster and one that's not. So there's a couple a couple of trends around repeat workouts. Like 60% of the repeats have shown up in the same week, but every repeat workout has at least happened within 1 week of its original placement. So you never see it deviate outside of 1 week. The toes to bar, double under, and thruster have been in every single open since the start of time. And 4 years is the longest distance between repeat workouts, not counting the fan vote. So typically speaking, there's a window for when a repeat workout is viable as far as like where the trends are within the community. So I kind of had that narrowed down to a couple in particular. I actually think one that I would probably like to see and have another shot at is 19.4 as kind of a finale high skill gymnastics one that kind of fits the role of 20.3 of last year. And that was a two-parter. It had burpees and snatches and bar muscle ups. And I think that was one that Pat Vellner absolutely smashed. I think that would be a fun one in the similar vein of like everyone can do it, but then there's a bar muscle up later on and down the line that, would kick people. There's obviously some opportunity with wall space for a few others. But there's one workout that I'm surprised we haven't seen that I would love to retest that falls outside of that four-year window. And that's 13.1.
Oh, you bastard. That was
oh,
you took two
Us
picks
in
and one
your
of them took
bracket.
mine.
Where am I on the?
Yeah, where
I'll
are we
let
on
Chase
the,
have that one. Yeah, I'll stop right there and let Chase take that.
That's funny. Dude, that
Transition
pick,
into Chase.
19.4 is one of the nastiest open workouts I've ever done. And it hurt me in the weirdest way. I don't know how you guys felt, but like to me, it was my abs when that was all done. Like I spent 10 minutes of like rolling around because I couldn't sit up to get up off the ground. It was and that was, I believe, was the first it wasn't like not the first interval workout because we've had structured rest in ones before, but it was that first like for rest for time. And I really like 19.4. My pick. So what I was looking at was that, we have 54, I believe, workouts or open workouts, including repeats that were available. When I was looking at my list, I took out repeats that we've already done. I've taken out obviously things that are limited by the equipment list. And that left with like 23, and then two of them had a two-parter. And the ones that I really feel like could be in there, I think 13.1 is a good one. It does fall outside that long repeat time frame like Tommy was talking about. I don't know if that was ever like a conscious decision on Dave's part when they were putting that together, but it is interesting. I actually didn't even think about that when Tommy put it together, but and part of this pick is personal feelings is that I'm not a big single event max lift guy in the open. I think unless they change the way it's scored, I feel like it really skews things in an isolated way, especially now that it's only 3 weekends. When it was 5 and there was a +1, okay, that's a little different, but 25% counting to a max lift, I never liked, but I wouldn't like that for any single modality test by itself. But these bridge ladders like Bill had with his deadlift, this one with the snatches and bar facing burpees, which is 13.1. We saw the same thing with toes to bar, double unders and cleans, but we've already repeated that twice and then one time in the age group online qualifier. But I think if we're going to test strength in the open, earning it that kind of way in a long ladder format, I think is a beautiful way to really test a big breadth of field, and I wouldn't mind seeing 13.1 repeated.
I like that one. I think that's an awesome pick. I mean, that was when I said I had 2 on the plate, that was my other one, because I'm surprised we haven't done that one again. It seemed that was kind of an amalgamation of 2 events anyway that were kind of shoved together, and it's surprising that we haven't seen that one again.
I think that's a
I'm
big
just actually
community
shocked about
favorite
that.
one too, which is
Yeah.
also surprising.
It's the first
Yeah.
live open announcement
That's
between
right.
Scott
Yeah.
and Dan.
Oh, wow.
And I think there's a cool way to incorporate it within the framework of the specified equipment list with the wall space. So we saw in the burpee standard for the last chance qualifier last year, use the wall tap as your target, as like a very clean, universally applicable wall standard for burpees to a target. So I think utilizing that takes away all the crazy stuff that we saw with people hanging rings and tape lines, things like that, and gives it a lot cleaner updated version to this. I would love to see it, because I think there's a ton of people that were around the community back then that are like, oh man, I was full snatching, that third weight, or that's, if I didn't even get to the third weight. And I think that we get to see some really, really cool comparison graphics over what would now be almost a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a massive difference, especially when you look at, like,
so old.
when we talk totally. When we talk about, especially on the women's side, the snatch event and how we do as far as snatching, we always have a tendency to look back to, the 2008, 2009 CrossFit Games and the videos of Tanya Wagner out there snatching and Annie snatching, and the amounts that they're doing. And then you look at where we are now. So this, just like what Tommy's talking about, this would be a great way to be like, okay, not just the high-end CrossFit athlete, but where have we come as a CrossFit community as far as like overall strength and ability to do a very high skilled lift. Granted, there will be a lot of people that will be, especially in the older divisions, in the more mature divisions, a lot of power snatches versus squat snatches, just based on movement and ability. But I think, generally, just to see statistically where we are and how far we've come as a group, I think would be a really cool stat to have. I think it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and especially with those weights. Sorry, go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah, I was going to touch on that exact same thing. You look at what the men's weights were. The final men's bar was 210. There are women in the elite field that snatch 210 now,
Right.
and there I remember people looking at the 210 bar like, oh, I don't know, man. And like the 120 bar for the women is the final weight, like,
which is ridiculous.
Power snatching, touch and go is what people.
Oh my gosh.
Even last year in quarterfinals for that last burpee box jump over and snatch workout, the weight was even heavier than what we're seeing on this. So that would be a really cool test to see how even more of the community could tackle this one.
Oh yeah,
totally.
So I actually, I picked a workout that I would like to see retested. Let's see if I can find it. It was 17. There it is. Open workout 17.5. It was 10 rounds for time, 9 thrusters, 35 double unders. Super accessible. You don't really need much space for a workout like this. And when you're thinking,
just need a good video machine. That's all you need. Just a good video editing
good
machine.
Photoshop.
Is all you need.
Exactly. Call Bill Grundler if you want more info on that.
That's amazing.
You just need a good video machine and a good chiropractor. That's all you need. And you're fine. You're fine.
Dang.
Did I say something? What?
Oh, I'm hurt.
A lot of personality here. I love it. I love it. With a workout like that, though, thinking about inside affiliates, super accessible. And even like I'm thinking at my gym with the classes getting bigger and you wanting to pump up something like Friday Night Lights where people are throwing down, that's when that could get super electric with a ton of people on the floor going after it all at once. So that was my pick.
And that's a good, I think that's a good pick, because when me and Chase were talking about what that layout was, it didn't say that you needed a certain amount of distance. So you don't know if there's going to be lunges where you're walking or having a step or having any sort of a handstand walk or a traveling. So if you're basically set up in one area, that would be a great position for that, you know?
Well, that's why I picked what I did, because I'm looking at from the literal sense of what they have listed, instead of, it's like, okay, wall space they put, but they didn't say, a certain amount of distance available,
Mm.
which, they didn't utilize in the open, but they did in, what was it? Did they use that in the quarterfinals, or did they waited for that? Or was it, there's just the, I think it
Virtual
might have just been the
semis.
virtual semifinals.
Yeah, virtual
Yeah.
semifinals.
Yeah.
And if they put those in, there's two that like I would really like is gosh, was it 16-1, which was
Is that-
the overhead lunges with the bar and the chest to bar pull-ups and bar
Mm.
facing burpees, which
Oh,
that
yeah.
one, I think that one took a year off my life.
Ugh.
That one specifically. And the other one is 19.3, which is the single dumbbell overhead lunges. I feel like that's a really popular one. If they would have put walls or handstand walk space or lunge space,
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been a very popular repeat idea.
Mm.
But I have a hot take. If anybody would like to expand,
Yeah,
on
let's hear it.
I don't think they're going to repeat a workout.
Oh,
I think this would be a non-repeat. New era begins, as the game so tone deafly posted 2 days after Dave Castro stepped away. I don't think they're going to be a repeat event this year.
We did, and we talked about this on our show, Chase. But I think that there was a lot of really good discussion about that. What's the importance of a repeat? The trying to test and yes, the purpose of the Open is to community festival, but then also to be that first shaker to try to get your first qualifiers out to the next step, and it allows for that benchmark to kind of see where you are. And there could be a lot of political type statements around, are they going to do it to kind of tip the hat to Dave, or are they not going to do it because they want to give Boz his shot, and be like, hey, we don't want to take away from you. We want to allow you to do whatever. I'm almost thinking that with all of that stuff, and this is something that I just started thinking about, was not that they will repeat exactly, but they will do versions of, like the snatch burpee event. Maybe instead of snatch, they do clean and jerk with that. So they
That'd
do the
be cool.
burpees, but they go clean and jerk instead. So you kind of get the same vibe. You get the same feel. You get that, nod to the past, but we're still jumping to the future. And then again, I kind of agree with Chase on this. I could see us not doing it because it's a new page, and I don't think you don't necessarily need to have a repeat to say, did the Open do what it was supposed to do or not? So
yeah.
I could very easily see that too, but I would love to see that burpee event, that 13-1 version with clean and jerks. I think that would be super fun.
Yeah, I go back and forth on this a little bit. Like in one, and like in some instances, like I agree, I could see them not doing a repeat, but then you get into the whole like philosophical side of like test, retest, the importance of the methodology, and almost like avoiding that because of Dave would almost give him ownership over that concept, which seems very antithetical to what CrossFit's about as a whole. Like, Sean and myself have talked about this, like, as much as we want to take ownership over our update shows, they don't belong to us. They never did. It was something that we did for CrossFit, and CrossFit has ownership over that. And that's, there's an element of that in the programming too. And I actually hadn't entertained the idea of maybe like providing a similar workout, but like an update, which would be kind of cool. Maybe just switching it to ground to overhead instead of, a snatch in that regard, which I think would be kind of cool.
It opened it up to more people. I think it'd be a more appropriate, not that snatches were inappropriate, but if you just say ground overhead, it allows more people to play with the same weights.
Yeah.
Like I think just change, if that's the case, like Bill said, I do think that'd be cool, just as long as it's not thrusters.
I want to see the thrusters.
Well,
Come
actually,
on.
I think honestly,
How tall are you, Lauren?
Right.
5'1 1/4.
Wow, that must be nice. I get right out of the hole of my squat when I hit 5'1. I've always compared snatch weights to thruster weights are very similar, I think, when programming highly competitive events, right? And when you look at, okay, what did was it 975 last year in the quarterfinals of snatches and burpee box jump overs.
Mm,
I
mhm.
feel like you get almost the same workout out of that, or close to, if you just switch it to thrusters and change no weight. It had a
Mm.
very similar vibe to it. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. I wouldn't hate that if they did something like that. And I think, Tommy, to your point exactly, like having a benchmark open repeat is very important to the methodology and proving that we've improved overall. If they weren't to repeat one for whatever reason, again, I'm just like, I don't think they will. I'm not saying they're not going to. And I'm not saying they shouldn't either. It's just, I just have a feeling that they won't. They could also just throw in a classic benchmark test. We've seen that before with Diane and then an evolution of that. So if you don't want to do a benchmark open workout, I want to be shocked if they, Boz threw in a classic benchmark CrossFit workout that everyone should have done. If not, it's one you should do. And now you get, you set the bar there. So something like that could happen too.
It's almost like including Gretel, like they did for
Yeah.
semifinals, or
Yeah.
Which
honestly, like that could be a very easy one to put in the open as well.
Yeah.
And and we see that a lot of times where you'll see an event that kind of attritions itself down from the games down to the semis or regionals level down into the open level. And Gretel is, I mean, you're taking burpees, you're taking Grace, you put them together, you got Gretel. That gives everyone a chance to kind of get into and feel the same thing that those upper athletes are feeling. Granted, we would have to say whether you're allowed to touch the bar or not, or whether all those things would get in there. But I think that would be a great event.
It was in the rule book.
It is this year.
Exactly. Exactly. But you're right. I think that would be a great way. It doesn't necessarily have to be a test to the open, but a test to your fitness. And where you choose to take that test from could be a lot of places. And you're right. I mean, our methodology is based off those those girl workouts, those named workouts. And that would be a good one. I think Greta would be it. Could you imagine that one or something like Grace or something, in how fired up the community people would be on a Friday Night Live?
Maybe
oh my gosh,
is there's your combo of Tommy's idea of what a repeat would be, and then say that Diane to different Diane. It's like, how great would it be? Well, not great, but it was like Grace, rest 3 minutes, Gretel.
Yeah.
That would be awful. Rest 3 minutes, 30 bar facing burpees. Welcome to the open.
Oh,
I'm breaking
that's one way to really evolve. Yeah.
Totally.
It's funny because even hearing that, like, almost like talks me more into thinking that like something like 13-1 with an adjustment would work, because there's so much of the community that hasn't even done that as part of their open programming before. Because in 2013 was the first year that open registration broke 100K, and so there's maybe 25% of the current open registration realistically, or the people out there doing CrossFit, have even done this as part of an official CrossFit competition. So
I mean, we have a whole new generation of CrossFitters now. I mean, like you said, it's 10 years ago, which that hurt to hear out loud. But I mean, think of how much the sport's changed, how much turnover we've had in the community and in the game season in a decade. So I think that'd be really cool.
I mean, Mal O'Brien was 9 when that workout came out. So.
Oh my God.
Listen, we're going to have to change our date references here, because this is.
That's some perspective to how old all of us are.
That's
oh, man. Bill was still a master.
Yes, I was. Always a master. I raised that flag from day one, baby. Masters. Oh my God.
What do each of you think the bottom line is when it comes to potential open repeats going into the season of 2022?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think honestly, that last year I could have told you what I thought. I think that there was a particular methodology that Dave did when he had the opens, what that feel should be. And also, what Dave always talked about was how he planned kind of the whole season. I think that now it is a little bit different with what the games are versus what the semis. I saw, the CrossFit had their statements that they said, okay, we want to program to the events, but they also want to be able to have their hands in whatever the other ones will be, so that there's a particular feel to it. I think that it will be different now because I don't know how congruent it will be all the way through from open to games. So it may be okay with this first step. It really truly is about the community to run that. And so you're going to run that community feel, especially since you have the scaled divisions. You have all the different divisions that are there. And then you also have that big chunk that get to go to the quarterfinals. I think you can do a lot more with that step. So I think the vibe now would be community based. I don't particularly see a whole lot of high skill. I see some decently skilled. I see higher volume. I see where it kind of goes back to the old throw of this is going to be the churn and burn. We want everyone to be able to play. Now we're going to see how bad you can hurt, and then we can get to the next stage and we can throw some other things on you, like 150 GHDs and 9,000 pistols or whatever. That kind of thing. That would be my take. That would be my take.
That workout hurt me so bad.
Yeah.
Because we had to do it 3 times.
Yeah. And I did it alongside Annie Sakamoto, who just
that's unfair.
It was
that is unfair. That's like her with another her on top of her shoulders doing GHC sitting. What are you talking about?
And pistols. Like I got through the first 10. I was like, oh yes, I did 10 pistols. And she's already back on the rope, and I'm like, where are you going?
74, 75. Thanks, Annie.
Yeah. Ooh. Bottom line. I think my bottom line is I don't think it's going to be that much different. If with Boz, like, taking the lead on that, there might be people that don't realize that how much of a hand he had in that process already behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, in the end, I think good CrossFit programming is good CrossFit programming. And, it might be, my take on, chicken Parmesan might be different than Bill's or Chase's, but it's still chicken Parmesan, and I clearly need to go eat because I'm very hungry, and that was the first analogy that came to my head. But yeah, I think we'll still see a lot of this, some similar things, and some of that falls in line with what Bill said. Accessible, churn and burn stuff in the beginning, and then maybe start to sprinkle in just some medium level skill as we get along.
Tailor off both those guys is that Justin Berg released a statement about what the season looks like, and he had some verbiage in there about making sure not exactly, but programming the steps to not cater to, but the appropriate demographic getting tested the right way, but also being vetted for the next process, which is the quarterfinals. And if we're talking open specifically, and then I got to talk to Boz a couple days ago, and not too much detail on the programming, but he said something similar about there needs to be an evolution of the programming as we work our way to. He was saying an example of like a funnel, right? And so if we're working at the top of the funnel, which is the open, as we get closer and closer towards the finish line, the programming is going to reflect the demographic, which is getting tested, and how we vet to the next season. So, or the next step. So I don't see, like these guys said, as anything super high skill. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy, right? One of the worst workouts we ever did was like 7 minutes of burpees, right? I hope it's not that dumbed down, but there are very simple ways. And that's the beauty of CrossFit, is that you don't have to dress it up to be very effective. CrossFit tend to make it hurt. So I think, yes, well, it would be a bit more low skill, which allows for more intensity, which is really what we want in a good test in the open as we move to quarterfinals, where you save those fun things like the heavy weights, the gymnastics, the handstand walks for the quarterfinals. Like, you got to earn those fun things where this is going to be a general test. The only thing I think we're going to have, and now that I actually read the equipment list appropriately, is my bottom line is get ready for wall walks.
Oh.
Have you not been practicing, Tommy?
I mean, I did a few.
Come on.
I actually
do keg stands count as wall walk practice?
Absolutely.
They're liquid infused wall walks. But I will admit, I've been putting a few wall walks in, probably 4, but they give me migraines, so that's my old man excuse.
That's fair. They're fun. You just got to twerk your hips a little bit. It makes it a little easier.
It does feel like
It's
when
all
I
in
get
the hips,
tired, there's
boys.
a little twerk action, which is somewhat self-conscious on my
You've been
part.
watching TikTok too much, is what's
I
happening
said
on that one.
I promised myself I'd never go back to that world after college.
Well, Chase, Bill, and Tommy, thank you guys so much for catching up with us. Some really great opinions, ideas for possible repeats or evolutions of repeats. And I don't know about you guys, but now I'm really fired up to get the Open started.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just
Oh,
rip the
yeah.
Band-Aid off. I'm signed up. Just
Here we
hit me
go.
with it.
One big slap in the face to get it started. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time.